Hi, today I'm meeting Dr. Swati, and we're going to be talking especially about early childhood education. It's a video that you simply don't want to miss if you are a parent to kids in this age group. We're talking about the green, yellow, red methodology of how to work with children when you leave them alone and where you are there, how sometimes you should be a helicopter parent and sometimes you should be a submarine parent and disappear. Truly fascinating. Some of the best advices I ever heard in education. Don't miss it. Swati, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I am very well, and namaskar, and thank you so much for inviting me on your show. BriBooks is doing such a wonderful job. One of my students from one of my schools was recently honored on the BriBooks NDTV show. So she's a young girl who's written a book, and you all have supported it. So you're doing really amazing work.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. But Swati, today I actually want to talk about something completely different. And my first question always is the same. How did you become an educator?
As a young girl, we usually play teacher teacher, and I think I took it quite seriously. Uh, because after I passed my board exams in India, you have 10 and 12 board exams. I only wanted to be a teacher, but my dad was quite against it because in our country, early childhood teachers were not always respected. So he would say that, why do you want to become a babysitter? You should pursue something else. So I did try to pursue other things while fighting with him, and then ultimately convinced him and became an early childhood educator because I think that was in my blood. So even though I've done my law, I pursue early childhood and only early childhood, not even the older children, though I'm a BEd, because I feel early childhood is not given respect, not only in this country, everywhere in the world. So I think we need more advocates, more ambassadors for early childhood.
And you start from, by the way, I completely agree with you. Those are the most critical years of every child, and every research shows it. But then you don't stop there. You evolve into a principal, and you go from the nest, the warm nest of the early childhood, to the hardcore space of running very
School.
serious education institutes.
Yes. So I started as a teacher. I taught for around 10 years. And then I started teaching in a teacher training college. And that's where one of my students got in touch with me and said, I want to set up a school. Can you please help me? So I thought, why not become a school consultant? So I started a company called Tasha. And the full form of Tasha was Teacher and Student Help Activities, and I basically became a consultant to set up quality preschools. So EuroKids, which was at that time just coming into India, with Egmont as its main company, they got in touch with me, and I became the education consultant for EuroKids and set up EuroKids. And then, of course, Podar got in touch with me, and I went and met them, and I am with them now because of their commitment to early childhood. So I'm completing 25 years with them. We have about 450 preschools, not only in India, but in UAE and Qatar. And well, it keeps me busy, keeps me passionate, keeps me engaged. And I think we need people who believe in quality preschools. And the Podar group has been my home because of that.
That's incredible. And when you 450 schools, right? For somebody like me that comes from a small country, it's this is like almost science fiction. And it is. I just trying to think how do you manage this empire, but eventually it goes down to the teacher, to the single teacher in a room. What are the advices, and I'm sure you carry it from being a teacher yourself, what advices do you give those teachers that just starting to work with you, that just came out of school, and how do you kind of help them get into the space and understand the culture?
So, my most important advice, even when I appoint teachers, is that don't come into the profession just because you love children. Because that's what we hear in interviews. When we ask them, why are you working here? They say, I love children. Loving children is not enough. You will love a child, but you may not end up doing something to benefit that child. Love is very superficial. You need to really be passionate about understanding children, because unless you don't understand child development or understand how a child learns or why a child fails, you won't be a good teacher. So it is very important that don't come with the wrong notions that I love children, I want to spend time with them. Then it's all about you, it's not about the child. So if you really want to become a good teacher, learn about children, and then ask yourself, what will I do when I have a child who is different in my class? Because it's very easy to become a teacher for children who are well behaved, learn well. Most teachers put up their hands the minute there is a different child in their class. So that's my advice to to teachers. You are a teacher, which means you touch a life forever. So don't be superficial. Don't be into this for the wrong reasons. Be there as a commitment and be there to add value to the profession.
That's such an important observation. By the way, it's true also for parents.
Yes.
Lots of parents are missing that. Loving your kids is great and it's extremely important, but this is not enough. You need to be a parent. You don't need to be a friend. You
Aha.
know. And I'm sure you want to say more about it. I'll let you
No,
talk about it.
I liked that you said that. I really loved it because parents want to become friends. So do teachers. Children have their friends. They don't need friends. They need a parent and a teacher. And you said it so beautifully.
Yeah, it's one of the classic mistakes that I've seen all over the world in education, is that, and again, sometimes it's the parent, sometimes it's the teacher. They because they are loving and caring and they want the best for the child, they miss the difference between a parent and a teacher needs to know how to draw very clear borders. You
Yeah.
don't cross those lines. A friend don't do that. Sometimes they do, but this is like you need to be on one hand like the warm, kind, supporting, but you also need to say this is where we draw the line. We don't cross it. And you took me to a completely different level. You call it different kids, and for me different kids is everything. It's like
Exactly.
especially a child can be extremely smart or extremely smart in mathematics, but with very trigger, a very problematic emotional connection, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to, and because you're with a group, you need to allocate time, and the initial tendency of, by the way, also parents, is to avoid the hard work and to go to and you're saying the other way around. You're telling those new teachers, telling them, like, when you sit in the class, I expect you to deal with the hard work and
Yes.
and not with. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
And I say this because in India, teaching is not a first choice profession. People come into teaching for two reasons. Number one, they were rejected by other professions. They didn't get admissions in the courses that they wanted to do, so they come to teaching. Number two, because they feel, oh, it will help me fill the gap till I get married or till I have a child. And it is a profession which has many holidays. It is part time. Many women come into it because there are fewer men, so their families allow them to work. So we have all these kind of teachers who are coming in, which means they are not here for the children. They are here as a stopgap, either in their career or in their life, and that has a very harmful effect both on education and the children, because you are not taking your job seriously.
I agree. By the way, you're referring to India, but it's a global problem.
Oh,
It's a global challenge for many reasons. Exactly. By the way, the same reason you mentioned, I've seen it in, I don't know, at least 50 countries with different things, and some countries are doing exactly what you're doing. Say, explaining that the teacher is a profession, and from economic point of view, let's just be clear about it.
yes,
The financial impact on a country of good teachers is by far better than a good engineer, by far.
yes,
you,
yes.
you know and so people, but sadly, by the way, I'm not sure about India, but sadly many countries also don't understand it in point of resources. They don't give enough resources and compensation and all that to bring the good teachers. But we saw it throughout history, that countries that invest in education, but for real, not as a babysitting service, to
Ah,
really, that's yeah. What do you want to say about the babysitting service? I'm sure I tapped on something there.
because in most countries, wherever I have gone, they consider early childhood more of babysitting, and they don't realize that the amount of brain development that's happening at that age, you are not just there to babysit the child, you are the person contributing to the stimulation and growth of that brain. So there are two sides of the spectrum in all countries, and they are all both the sides are too wrong for children. One is where they just babysit children, and one is where they put so much of pressure of learning on children, and that's more so in the Asian countries. That both are wrong. Both are somewhere not contributing to the exact needs of that stage.
One of my best advices that I got from my mom as a young parent was, she always told me that she spoke to me always like I was an adult. There was
Yes.
like completely like, I'm talking even when I was not talking, even when I was like 4 months old. She said, I always refer to you as an adult. I always expected you to behave like an adult. Yeah, you can play, you can do whatever you want, but I refer to you, and something that I see with my kids here, they always complain about the fact that I let them decide. They come with me with a challenge. I said, like, why are you expecting me to make the decision for you? I treated you since you were a baby as an adult. You should, I can help you, but the decision will always be yours.
Yes.
And this is something that you do in early childhood, because you need to treat them with respect, but also for them to evolve, because you, like, again, the extra love that we spoke about before is, I'll do everything for you, I'll tell you. And no, you need to deal with that. And what is like, what is the age group that you have in your schools, in those 450 schools? Like, from what age to age?
Uh, so we have in India, we take from 2 years to 6 years, which is what the early childhood age group is. In UAE, we were taking children from 8 months because we had a child care. So, and the law in UAE for mothers, working mothers, they just get about 3 months of maternity leave. So we used to have children from 4 months onwards in our child care, and then they used to be with us till age 5 or age 4. So the general age, I would say, is between 1 year to 6 years.
And what, you were never pressured to go into like primary education, because it sounds like a very natural request
Progression.
from the parents
It,
as well.
it is. I've got millions of requests, especially because our early childhood program in Podar is one of the most exceptional programs, I would say, around the globe. You must come and visit us. We are fortunate that we've got good teams who understand, and it starts from our trustee, who understands that early childhood needs quality. So the same amount of investment which is made, say, for a grade 10 class is given to the early years also. So when early years does so well, the parents naturally feel more comfortable and trustful with that team and want that, why don't you also be there for primary? But I was very clear, even with the parents, that somebody has to hold the fort in early childhood. And when you give that strong foundation to children at that age, somewhere it will impact them in their future life and learning also. And in India, it's not only considered a progression, it's considered a promotion. Most people look at it like, if you go from early years to primary, oh, I was promoted to primary. I don't look at it like that. I feel if you have your passion, your knowledge, your understanding about a particular age group, then you shouldn't try to think of it as growth when you go to the other age group. As I said, I've done my B.Ed. I've done my B.Ed in English and history just to understand how learning and education for older kids differs from that of very young children. And I realized that actually it doesn't. You do history in a particular way with young children also, and it should be done in the same way for older kids also. Why do we keep them away from stories and games? Why do we say, oh, you are in the 10th grade now, you only need to learn through books? So I basically did my B.Ed to do that kind of an experimentation. And no, I would not want to go to primary or secondary or senior secondary. I get my little, how would I say, my little dose of it, because we also run teacher training programs. So we run a 1-year teacher training program in early childhood education. So I get my chance to coordinate, to meet older teachers just coming in from schools or colleges. So I get that dose. So I'm quite happy. But no, early childhood is the place for me.
I normally don't talk about BriBooks in this podcast, but I do want to make a little irregularity here. One of that, because you mentioned this, a lot of people ask me, like, how early can you write a book? And I always say that the best ideas come when the kids are very small, like, because their imagination when they're 3 or 4, it's just like mind blowing. And sadly, I would say over time, because of the standard education system, we kind of reduce their ability, hence, the ability to play and all that. And you mentioned a child that wrote a book and was featured on the MTV, and she's probably like, what, 5 or something like this. One of the best activities that I ever seen around the world with BriBooks is activity with young kids writing a book in tandem with their parents or with grandparents, as something that takes a lot of time. I've seen exceptional works when the creativity of the 3-year-old meets the technical capacity of the older. And I think this is actually what you're tapping on, because when you're talking about, like, how do you learn from this creative environment, this is one of the examples, because the ability to have your name on something that you created, whether it's a project that you built from Lego or a painting or a book, it's so powerful, and it goes directly into primary education.
Absolutely. And I must tell you something here, because you spoke about how young can children be. We did books with 4-year-olds. And how did it start? The teacher was telling a story of Goldilocks, and she told them the story. And after that, it was playtime. And this child snatched a toy from another child. And the teacher said, you should say please. Now you must say sorry to that child. So the child turned around, and I was in that class supervising, actually. And the child turned around and said, why should I say that when Goldilocks does not? And that made us realize, oh my God, the stories that we are telling these children, they have their own thoughts about these stories. So I will send you a copy of these books that these children created. We then asked them, okay, let's change Hansel and Gretel. What do you think should be the story? What do you think Red Riding Hood should be the story? and they changed all the story. They drew the illustrations in their little baby art forms. We documented it because we asked them, what does this illustration mean? We follow the Reggio Emilia method of documenting children's work. I must send you these stories.
Please, I'm
Second
very
one
curious.
was the second one was about war and peace. Because there was war going on in different countries, the teachers thought of talking to children about war and peace. And they said, okay, yes, we have done it. The children have understood it. So I said, make them draw about it. So the teachers asked the children to draw about war. The children drew weapons and all that. Then the teacher asked them to draw about peace. And the teachers were shocked because the children drew piece of bread, glass pieces, green peas. And I said, see, they've not understood. You think you spoke about peace, but in their
Fascinating.
mind, the word meant different things. And that became a kind of a project for us and help teachers understand that we must never assume that children have understood till they don't tell us their story or what they have learned about it. And drawing is the best way to help children express, So I'm so happy you said that children of any age can make storybooks. I'm going to send you those storybooks.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen it. By the way, this story is like unbelievable about the piece. But I've seen it again and again and again, and it's always because what you're saying, de facto, this is what the example is, that because there is like an adult that documents what's the child is saying into words that the child cannot read at this form, and they picking illustrations together, or they add their own illustrations. Doesn't really matter. But by default, they are telling that the adult is helping the child communicate the story to the public,
Yes.
or the child doesn't even understand it's the public at this age. And then you're right. I actually never thought about it, that the child perceives certain parts of reality in a completely different way that me as an adult assumes it. And I would also say that this is also a very important lesson for parents, because
Yes.
when you are discussing things with your child or telling them certain things, do ABC, many times they don't even understand, and they don't understand why you're telling them, and they don't understand what they did before. Like you say, they might be, I don't know, they might throw something on the floor and they broke it, and you are upset with them, but they, from another book that they read, they don't even know, they say, but that's okay, that the child did it, and it's really, really fascinating. Okay, last question, and I will let you go. Advice to parents. Like you meet parents nonstop. Anybody from the like helicopter parents to huggy lovey parents, and we spoke about don't be their friend. I know it, but you are not trained to be a parent. There is
Yes.
no parent school, right? And and I heard some really good advices for that people advised me as a parent as well. And I wonder, like, what is like a one advice or two that you think every parent should know?
So I am a huge follower of Magda Gerber and her style of parenting that she teaches parents. I would urge parents to Google search. And she talks about, when we talk about helicopter parenting and all that, she says there are three colors that parents have to keep in mind when parenting is there: red, yellow, and green, just like a traffic signal. You should know when to hover, when to helicopter. It's during the risky times or the dangerous times, etc. You should know when to let it be and just scaffold children. That's your yellow color. And when to just leave children alone and not be there at all for children. And I think that is where what parents need to learn: when to be a helicopter and when to be a submarine. Because there are times you will need to be a helicopter. You are in a mall with your child, you will have to be a helicopter parent, but you are at home or your child is in a trusted environment, be a submarine, let the child be as it is. And my second advice to parents always is, please read up on applicable theories which are there handed down since generations. Montessori talks about the sensitive periods, and parents don't know about these periods, and they don't realize why children are stubborn at a particular age. They term it as stubborn or tantrums, but it's actually the sensitive periods that the child is going in. Or when we spoke about this child who heard the Goldilocks and did the same thing, that's the Bobo doll experiment. So have a look at this experiment to understand children will imitate. Or the still face experiment, more relevant now for parents to understand, because you're on a mobile phone all the time. You're not looking at a child when you're talking to them. So when you have a look at experiments, theories, Piaget's cognitive development, Eric Erickson's emotional development, read up. There are lovely short videos. There's a company called Sprouts that makes excellent videos, short 2-minute videos on all these topics. I feel every parent must make it a part of their toolkit to understand these things, rather than Googling and depending on WhatsApp University to solve all their parenting problems. So I feel read up, be in touch with exactly what all the teacher is in touch with, to be a true parent for your child.
Swati, thank you very, very much. First of all, I personally learn a lot. I'm actually personally gonna watch those videos, because now I also feel a little bit dumb here, and I'm definitely missing some. So I love your advices, and I honestly wish every parent for to early childhood kids will see this video. You're clearly an inspiration, and your company. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward coming for a visit and seeing them. So
Yes.
I will.
My personal invitation to you.
I definitely will. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.